I love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Hey, what's poppin', my homies? What's good? Hope you guys are doing well, doing blessed, having a good day, having a good week. UFC fight night, Marvin Vettori versus Cannonier. A pretty sick main event. As always, guys, we checked my bets from last week. An absolute nightmare. The Canadian card was not kind to me. Even my biggest bet resulted in a no contest. And the most annoying thing about that bet, if Nasruddin and Curtis run it back, I'm not getting Nasruddin at no -125. You know, that's opening -2 or even worse. As always, guys, if you see your name on the screen, you already know that's money, pure money. As always, if you want your MoneyCity comment to feature, make sure you hashtag your comment. There is a few comments that I'll pick out that haven't been hashtagged, but you gotta hashtag these comments. Hashtag MoneyCity, let's go, let's do it again. Alright, first matchup on this card, we've got Modestas Bukauskas taking on Pauga. Essentially, guys, this matchup is going to be kicker versus boxer. In a way, you could kind of compare this matchup to Nasruddin versus Chris Curtis. You know, Modestas wants to be light on his feet, wants to use good footwork, good agility. He wants to throw some nice kicks, looking to maintain the distance between him and his opponent. Whereas Pauga wants to exchange big fight-ending combinations. You know, Zach would rather be close to his opponent, either controlling Modestas against the fence or exchanging one-hitter quitters. So there's two very different styles that make this matchup, and I was quite impressed with Modestas when he fought Tyson Pedro in Australia. You know, his cardio looked pretty good. He had more output, better footwork, better kicking. Just an all-round better game than Tyson Pedro. Now, Pauga did clinch up Jordan Wright, you know, pushed him against the fence, had a lot of control time. But I don't really see him being able to do that to Modestas Bukauskas. Pauga's going to be more likely to find a devastating kill shot, but Modestas would kind of have to make a mistake for that to happen. And obviously mistakes do happen in fights, you know, mistakes lead to big fight-ending moments. But yeah, I think Modestas should win this fight. You know, he's got better kicking, more speed, better footwork, more weapons. I think Zach would have to find a kill shot, kinda similar to Nasruddin and Chris Curtis. Modestas wants to be light, using footwork, using speed and kicks. Whereas Zach wants to be close, you know, exchanging big punches. So yeah, give me Modestas to win this matchup. Alright, moving into the next matchup, we've got Ronnie Lawrence taking on Argueta. Now this matchup is going to be wrestler versus wrestler, grappler versus grappler. Argueta has the wrestling background, so he's more of a grappler by trade. Ronnie Lawrence doesn't have a wrestling background, but if you watch Ronnie fight, he can really get takedowns. You know, his grappling's good. The main attributes that make Ronnie Lawrence very good would be cardio, footwork and wrestling. You put those things together, you've really got yourself a difficult opponent. Now guys, he was ragdolled by Salikhov, which kind of showed us that you need excellent cardio and very good wrestling if you want to do well against Ronnie Lawrence. I would say that Argueta definitely has the wrestling and grappling to compete with Ronnie Lawrence, but I don't think he's on the same level in terms of cardio. So really what I think Argueta has to do in this matchup is continue to mat return Ronnie Lawrence the way Salikhov did. And obviously if we're going to do that, we need very good cardio. And that's really where I see the difference in this matchup. I think Salikhov has excellent wrestling and very good cardio. Whereas Argueta, I'm not sure he can continue to do that in round 2 and round 3. So guys, even if Argueta wins round 1 based on takedowns and control, even if that's the case, does Argueta have the cardio to do that in round 2 and round 3, you know, to consistently mat return Ronnie Lawrence? In my opinion, I'm going to say no. So yeah, for those reasons, I'm going to be siding with Ronnie Lawrence to win this fight. I think his footwork is very good. He's always moving his feet. His cardio is a real weapon. and I'm going to be siding with Ronnie for those reasons. Moving into a matchup between Tereza Bleda taking on Gabi Fernandes. Now guys, this is going to be classic grappler versus striker. Bleda being the wrestler, the grappler, and Gabi Fernandes being the striker, the boxer. So guys, we can see from Gabi Fernandes in her UFC debut, her takedown defense is really bad. Not only poor takedown defense, but her get-up game. You know, the ability to work back to the feet from the mat. The ability to dig an underhook on the far side and work back to the feet is also non-existent for Gabi Fernandes. Also guys, when you look at the clinch defense of Gabi Fernandes, again, it's not good. The moment that Jasmine Jasdavicius clinched her up, that's when Gabi should be digging underhooks, you know, looking for the underhook to control the position. So those are going to be like the two main areas where Gabi Fernandes really needs to show improvements. And it's going to be easier to show improvements in the clinch compared to like working back to the feet. Now on the flip side, when we look at Tereza Bleda, this girl's by far the better prospect. You know, her ground game is pretty strong. And if she gets Gabi to the mat, more than likely she is going to cause big problems for Gabi Fernandes. But just looking at the striking defense of Bleda, it's pretty bad. You know, offensively and defensively, it's pretty bad. Especially when she gets tired. You know, she kind of leaves her hands down when she's tired, which is dangerous. And Natalia Silva showed us that. So really, both of these fighters have got to show improvements in different areas. You know, Gabi needs to improve her clinch defense, her get-up game, her takedown defense. Whereas Bleda's offensive striking and defensive striking kind of need work. It's a good matchup. I'm going to side with Gabi Fernandes, the big underdog. I just think if she can show some improvements in the clinch, she might keep this fight standing. But yeah, it's a risky bet, and I wouldn't really advise betting on this matchup. But yeah, I'll take Gabi. Alright, moving into a matchup between Zhalgas Zhumagulov taking on Felipe Bunez. Now guys, it appears to me that even when Zhalgas Zhumagulov does well, even when he wins the fight, the judges just rob him. You know, so if this matchup is close, don't be shocked. Don't be shocked if Felipe Bunez gets a split decision win, because the judges look at Zhalgas Zhumagulov as some kind of clown. But yeah, Felipe Bunez is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and if you look at his boxing, it's pretty good. You know, his hands are sharp, quick counters, power, technique. But if we're going to look at output and motion and who's got more to offer and wrestling, you know, Zhalgas is good. Zhalgas ain't no easy fight, but even if it's a close fight, and Zhalgas wins, the judges are like, you know, I'm not going to give the win to Zhalgas Zhumagulov. So yeah, it's one of those matchups where I think it's potentially underdog or pass. Even though I think Zhalgas is going to offer more, it's like, what if Felipe Bunez can counter him clean? You know, drop him. You know, he could do that in one round, and then the next two rounds are kind of close. I just think it's underdog or pass. See, I'm going to side with Felipe Bunez. Alright, moving into the next matchup, we've got Carlos Hernandez taking on Denis Bondar. Now guys, this matchup, let's speak about Denis Bondar. So Denis is a grappler, a wrestler. He's looking to bring the opponent to the mat. And that's what he'd done to pretty much all of his opponents prior to the UFC debut. And even in the UFC debut against Malcolm Gordon, you know, he got Malcolm to the mat. But the moment he got Malcolm to the mat, Malcolm starts to attack with some jiu-jitsu and essentially hurts the arm of Denis Bondar. So yeah, the UFC debut of Denis Bondar didn't go too well. Now looking at the most recent fight of Carlos Hernandez, he did get submitted by Alan Nascimento. But Alan Nascimento's got very good jiu-jitsu, so Denis Bondar isn't going to do that. You know, he's not going to climb his back. And it's probably fair to say that if Denis Bondar can get a takedown on Hernandez, Hernandez isn't going to do what Malcolm Gordon did. So in a way, it is a better matchup for both of these guys, considering their last opponents caused them some real problems, because Hernandez isn't dealing with the same level of jiu-jitsu that he dealt with in his most recent fight, and Bondar's not going to deal with the jiu-jitsu attacks as much from Carlos Hernandez. Now in terms of damage, striking damage, I would say that Carlos Hernandez is the better striker, so if he keeps the match up on the feet, his chances are fairly good. But Denis Bondar obviously wants to bring this fight to the mat, and that's why this is an interesting matchup. My prediction, I'm going to side with Dennis Bondar to essentially impose his grappling, get the takedown, and like I said, the jiu-jitsu attacks that he had to deal with Malcolm Gordon, I don't think it's going to be there with Carlos Hernandez. So yeah, my prediction, I'm going to side with Dennis Bondar. Alright, moving into the next matchup, we've got Kang taking on Quinonez. Now guys, what I really like with this matchup is both of these guys have got a really good jab, a really good 1-2. They're really good with the straight punches. And that's something I really like with this fight. Now I did side with Kang as a slight underdog against Dinar Bakgarel, and the main reason why I made that pick is because Kang loves the jab, he loves the straight punches like I said, and Dinar Bakgarel is more hooks, and that's why I made that pick, because the straight punches find the target quicker than looping them. And that's the same reason why I took Roman Kopylov as a slight underdog against Punard. Exact same thing, the straight punches over the hooks. Now what I really like about this matchup is Quinonez is all about the jab, he's all about the straight punches. So potentially Kang is going to get beat at his own striking game. So if Kang wants to use all these boxing combinations and the straight punches, it's going to be difficult to do it this time round. And guys, the real main difference in my opinion is going to be Quinonez can use all of these weapons on the fly. You know, he can be moving whilst using the jab. Whereas if you look at Kang, he wants to be more stationary whilst using the jab. You know, you look at the fight against Dinar Bakgarel. Dinar was just stood in front of him and the jab was easy. The 1-2 is easy. So I think the main difference is like speed, footwork, motion. All these things go in the favour of Quinonez. And some people might speak about Kang has got the grappling advantage, you know, the black belt. But he did get tired grappling with Ronnie. So I think the game plan would be to strike with Quinonez, but if Quinonez starts to really get the better of the jab, maybe Kang changes his mind and tries to grapple. But yeah, like I said, I think the biggest difference is going to be that Quinonez can use all these weapons on the move, and I think that's going to be a big problem for Kang. So I'm going to side with Quinonez to win this matchup. Alright, moving into a matchup between Jimmy Flick taking on Alessandro Costa. Now this matchup is pretty good because Jimmy Flick is a black belt in jiu-jitsu and so is Alessandro Costa, so the jiu-jitsu is very good. Essentially it is going to be grappler versus grappler. But when we look at the striking of Jimmy Flick, it's pretty bad. Like, not only is the striking bad, but also the striking defense. I think the stand-up of Jimmy Flick, it needs some improvements. On the flip side, guys, when we look at Costa, his striking's not as bad as Jimmy Flick's. You know, his calf kick is really heavy, it's powerful, and also his boxing's pretty sharp. But really this matchup is good because you don't want to be the loser of the matchup. If you're Costa and you lose to Jimmy Flick, you're now 0-2 in the UFC. And the first loss to Amir Albazi is like acceptable, but a loss to Jimmy Flick wouldn't really be acceptable. And also if you're Jimmy Flick and you've come back from retirement and you've gone 0-2, you know, at that point you may as well go back to retirement or go to Bellator. So really if you're the loser of this matchup, it's not looking good, and that kind of makes the matchup interesting. But yeah, for me I'm going to side with Alessandro Costa because I think his calf kicks are good, his power's good, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I just think overall he's going to be better than Jimmy Flick. So yeah, give me Costa to win this matchup. Moving into a matchup between Ronnie Barcelos taking on Miles Johns. This is a good matchup. Now guys, I've literally gone back and rewatched all of Miles Johns' UFC fights. I've literally watched all of them, and primarily Miles Johns is a wrestler. You know, by trade we see him as a wrestler, but doesn't really use his wrestling. You know, anytime he gets the opponent to the mat, the opponent just pops straight back to the feet. So in terms of like judging Miles Johns on his background, he doesn't really use it too much. And guys, you gotta remember, even if he does use his wrestling, Ronnie Barcelos is a really good black belt. You know, his jiu-jitsu's super good. So thinking about Miles Johns choosing to grapple, I don't really see him taking Ronnie to the mat. Considering he doesn't really use his wrestling too much and now he's competing against a really good black belt. So yeah, I think Miles Johns would keep this matchup on the feet. So looking at Miles Johns with his striking, the right hand is really what Miles is looking to land. And also the right kick. Now on the flip side, Ronnie Barcelos has really good Muay Thai. You know, his Muay Thai is very good, but he doesn't really move his head. I think if Ronnie wants to do well on the feet, the low kick has to be a weapon. You know, you've got to smack the calf of Miles Johns and really just watch for the right hand of Miles Johns because that's the fight ender. My prediction for this matchup is going to be Ronnie Barcelos. I just think he's a better striker, a good black belt, but he is getting older and his head movement's not great. So if anyone takes a shot on the underdog, I can kind of see why, but yeah, I'm going to side with Ronnie. And if money comes in on Miles Johns and brings down the Ronnie line, then maybe I'll make a bet. If you waited to smoke with me, that's an amen. If you've been smoking this whole time, that's a double amen. If you're not a smoker but you enjoy the smoke breaks, that's always been a triple amen gang. Let's go. Now guys, I've got to give some credit to one fighter. From the last card, I really underestimated one fighter and I expected them to kind of get dusted. I expected that they would lose the fight 75% of the time and their performance looked more like they would win 75% of the time. And that's Jasmine Jasdavicius. Good job. Good job, Jasmine. Good work. I'm not happy that you done that, but I can appreciate the work, you know, fair play. Every now and then, guys, I gotta dedicate the smoke break to someone I didn't give much chance to. Like, guys, if I didn't watch that event and someone said to me, yeah, the Maverick and Jasmine fight, complete domination, I would instantly think to myself, yeah, that's Miranda Maverick, you know, well-rounded, she's good. But no, Jasmine Jasdavicius, okay. And shout out to Mike Malott for being the Canadian version of Michael Chandler on the mic. And in all fairness, shout out to all the Canadians, you know, all the performances. Good job. Alright guys, let's go. Alright, moving into a matchup between Nicholas Dalby taking on Muslim Salikhov. Now guys, what's really interesting with this matchup is going to be the striking styles that we're going to be watching. Now when I was a casual when I first started watching UFC, I couldn't really tell the difference between one kick and another kick. Like anytime I saw a kick, it would just be the same kick. But once you keep watching and keep watching, you begin to realize that a karate player does not kick the same way a Muay Thai fighter kicks. And a Muay Thai fighter doesn't kick the same way a Taekwondo player kicks. And a Taekwondo player doesn't kick the same way a Sanda fighter kicks. And the Sanda fighter doesn't kick the same way the Kung Fu fighter kicks. And the Kung Fu fighter doesn't kick the same way the Dutch kickboxer kicks. And I can go on and on and on. But what really makes this matchup so fun is you've got a very good kickboxer, the king of Kung Fu, Muslim Salikhov, competing against primarily a karate player in Nicholas Dalby. So both of these guys have got really different striking styles. And I personally don't believe in karate unless it's like Stephen Thompson. But Nicholas Dalby can sometimes manage range well with his kicks. But Muslim Salikhov, in my opinion, would win a striking matchup most of the time against a karate player. However guys, if we look at Muslim Salikhov, his cardio's not great. So if I'm Nicholas Dalby, I'd rather test the grappling in order to fatigue Muslim Salikhov instead of playing like a striking chess match, because your chances of fatiguing Salikhov would be way more likely if you could successfully grapple. Now both of these guys are pretty old, so if you're going to bet this matchup, it's kind of risky, but I do like the stylistic striking matchup and I'm going to side with Muslim Salikhov. I just think his striking's better than Nicholas Dalby, but if he gets taken to the mat or gets pushed against the fence, that's really where he's going to slow down. And Nicholas Dalby's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and that's why I mentioned if you're Nicholas Dalby, your karate's okay, but you should really be testing the grappling of Muslim Salikhov. But yeah, my pick, I'm going to side with Muslim. Alright, moving into a matchup between Manuel Torres taking on Nicholas Motta. Now guys, when you go watch the tape on Torres and then watch the tape on Motta, you're going to notice that Torres has some really powerful calf kicks. You know, his calf kicks are really heavy, and you're also going to notice that Motta is very flat-footed. So more than likely, Torres is going to look to land the calf kick. He's going to look to land front kicks. He's going to look to really hurt Nicholas Motta. And on the flip side, Nicholas Motta's boxing is very good. You know, he's looking to counter the opponent. And Manuel Torres is more than happy to throw hooks. So there's going to be openings for Motta to try and counter. But at the same time, you're going to try to just slip out of the way of the hook. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes not. But more than likely, there is going to be a stoppage in this matchup because both guys are just very violent. You know, Torres is swinging hooks and powerful kicks, and Motta's looking to really snipe you. You know, the hooks on the counter, they're pretty devastating. And all of Torres's wins are in round one. You know, he's not really left round one. So that's another thing that you could speak about that would contribute to a stoppage in this matchup. It's really a gunfight. In my opinion, kinda dog or pass. But I do prefer Torres because of the calf kicks. I just think he's gonna dust the lead leg of Motta, and that could set up a KO. Or Motta could counter him and get a KO. I think there's violence in this matchup. I'm going to side with Manuel Torres. Alright guys, moving into the next matchup, we've got Pat Sabatini taking on Lucas Almeida. Now guys, the styles in this matchup are completely different. You know, you've got a striker in Lucas Almeida competing against a grappler in Pat Sabatini. So two very different styles, and I want to give Lucas Almeida a lot of credit. You know, on his Contender Series matchup, he had a really good first round, you know, very aggressive. But then kind of faded and Zhalgas was able to outpoint him. You know, just kind of took control of the striking. Then Lucas Almeida makes his UFC debut against Petrosyan, and to be honest, round one was looking good. It was looking good, and then he got dropped badly by Petrosyan, but still worked his way back into that fight and was actually able to finish Petrosyan. So yeah, a lot of credit to Lucas Almeida. And that's really what Almeida wants to do. You know, he wants to strike with Pat Sabatini, so if he can avoid the mat, his chances are pretty good. Now on the flip side, Pat Sabatini, we know this guy's a good grappler. You know, his jiu-jitsu is very good, his wrestling's good, his cardio, and just the ability to kind of outwork the opponent, you know, test the cardio of the opponent with the grappling. And it's also fair to say that if you're going to beat Pat Sabatini, you've probably got to find a stoppage. And that's what Damon Jackson done. You know, really quick stoppage. And if Damon Jackson can find a stoppage on the feet, then so can Lucas Almeida. But that doesn't mean that Almeida's going to win the fight. I'm just saying it's possible to clip Pat Sabatini. If Pat Sabatini can get Lucas Almeida to the mat and just kind of fatigue him, you know, bring him into that grueling wrestling contest. If Pat Sabatini can make it primarily a grappling matchup, then he's going to do well. It's really going to come down to, are we going to mainly kickbox or are we going to mainly grapple? In my opinion, I think the pick would be Pat Sabatini. You know, his grappling's good, his jiu-jitsu's good. So that's going to be my pick. Alright, moving into a really good matchup between Christian Leroy Duncan taking on Armen Petrosyan. Now this is going to be striker versus striker. We know that Christian Leroy is a really good kicker and Armen Petrosyan is a Muay Thai player. So his kicks are really good. So that's going to be kicker versus kicker, striker versus striker. And if we look at the career of Armen Petrosyan, we can see that, you know, most of his opponents are trying to grapple. You know, in the Contender Series, he was pushed against the fence. Finds a stoppage, but he was clinched. Then I took Armen Petrosyan as like a plus 200 against Gregory Rodriguez. And again, you know, Gregory took him to the mat. But the output and the kicks of Armen was the result. But I just mentioned that Gregory was able to grapple a little bit. Then against Kyle Bahello, you know, essentially did lose this fight because he was taken to the mat. And Kyle really found good success with the grappling. Now, Christian Leroy Duncan's not a grappler. He's a striker, but if you look at the amateur career of Christian Leroy Duncan, he's had like over 20 amateur fights. So a lot of time preparing to become a professional. And to be honest, if anyone's going to have the advantage in the grappling, like I said, they're both strikers. But if anyone's gonna, I think it would be Christian Leroy Duncan. But yeah, primarily this is going to be striker versus striker. If you look at Christian Leroy Duncan, his kicks are very good. You know, his management of range, his speed, you know, just the variety of kicks, the explosiveness. You know, typically when we mention like someone's really explosive, we might kind of picture them not being super technical. You know what I'm saying? More power than technique. But with Christian Leroy Duncan, this is not the case. You know, his explosiveness is super technical. He's really good at managing range. He's quick. And like I said, if he wants to grapple, I think he can. So yeah, my pick is CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan. That's the pick. Alright, moving into the co-main event, we've got Arman Tsarukyan taking on Joaquim Silva. And for the person that put this co-main event together, whoever put this together, thinking, yeah, Arman Tsarukyan against Joaquim Silva, this is a good co-main event. Whoever done that, you know, don't matchmake again, because this matchup, it shouldn't be happening. You know, Arman Tsarukyan is like better than Joaquim Silva everywhere. You know, this matchup, this co-main event, it doesn't make sense. You know, it would have made more sense if you did it like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where Arman was still kind of building his name. At this very point in time, it doesn't really make sense. How does Joaquim Silva win? You know, he's not a better kicker. He's not a better puncher. He's not a better wrestler. He's not even got more experience than Arman. You know, this matchup is a massive mismatch. Arman wins. Moving into the main event, we've got Marvin Vettori taking on Cannonier, and this is a good main event, a difficult pick. If you look at the line movement, there's a lot of action on Cannonier. You know, Cannonier was like plus 140, plus 150, and now he's like minus 110. So there's a lot of action on Cannonier. It's an interesting main event because Marvin Vettori's got good cardio. He's got good wrestling, good boxing. Not like super good boxing, but he's tough. You know, he's really tough. I would say that Cannonier's got a better calf kick. You know, he's got that powerful calf kick, and it can really do damage. And if he's landing that calf kick nice and early, that can really help him later in the fight. But if you're Marvin Vettori, you probably want to grapple in this matchup, in this main event. And that's not to say that Marvin Vettori can't strike. It's just to say if you can clinch up or take Cannonier to the mat early, or, you know, get the grappling going in round 2, that's really going to help you later in round 4 when Cannonier's tired. So really it's going to come down to like game plans. Can Cannonier smack Vettori with the calf kicks nice and early? Or is Vettori going to hang around like he normally does, you know, show his toughness and eventually fatigue Cannonier? I think it's very close to 50-50. Now, one thing that I do believe is going to be different in this main event for Cannonier compared to the main event against Sean Strickland. One thing that I do believe is going to be different is going to be the pace of this fight. If you look at the fight where Cannonier fought Strickland, you know, it was contested at quite a slow pace. Whereas this one, I don't really see that. You know, I think this one's going to be quite a nasty main event. So I do believe the pace is going to be different, and that could kind of contribute to Cannonier getting a KO. Or it could contribute to Cannonier fatiguing if Vettori can like get takedowns or good success in the clinch. I think it's very close to 50-50. I'm going to side with Vettori very slightly. I think he's going to do more work in round 4 and round 5. But man, this main event, super good. Alright guys, as always, drop down your main event prediction, your co-main, your underdogs, your MoneyCity plays, all that good stuff. Drop it down below. And as always, eyes to the sky, never glued to your shoes. Peace.